Joining us to discuss this topic, we're first joined by Professor Ephraim Imbar, who is the president of the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, joining us from Jerusalem. Professor Imbar, thank you very much for your time. I want to pick up on the end of what I read out there, looking at an end to the war, something Hamas now seems inclined and is looking towards. Do you think Israel is willing to let this happen?
Yes, Israel is ready to end the war, of course, on the conditions that Hamas doesn't rule over Gaza, and Hamas as an organization will have no weapons in Gaza.
And Professor Imbar, looking at Hamas themselves, what needs to happen to Hamas for Israel to agree to let this happen? Does Hamas need to be disbanded, and how does that happen?
It can happen voluntarily by diplomatic pressure by the United States and Arab moderate states that do not have any liking to Hamas, that is an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood, a radical Islamic organization. Or it can happen by the use of force. Then Israel will have to resume the war and go after all Hamas terrorists.
Professor Imbar, I'd like to stay with you and look at the potential release of 6 alive hostages, but also the bodies of 4 dead hostages, among those 2 very young children, the youngest to be taken by Hamas on October the 7th. What's the feeling in Israel at the moment? There must be a conflict of feelings and emotions, given the fact that they know that 6 hostages, people alive, potentially will be released, but on the other side, the confirmation that 4 are dead.
There are, of course, many mixed feelings. The 2 kids, redhead kids, and their mother touched a very sensitive nerve of many Israelis, and realizing that they are no longer living and their bodies will be returned caused great sorrow. At the same time, as you yourself mentioned, of course, Israelis are very happy with any hostage that gets out alive from the Hamas tunnels, where they were terribly mistreated, malnourished, didn't receive any medicines, and every moment in danger of losing their lives.
Also joining us to discuss this ever-evolving topic is Ali M. Abushbak, who's an independent Palestinian researcher joining us from Cairo. Ali, thank you very much for your time today. I want to look at a positive potentially from the side of Palestinians living within Gaza. Fears over negotiations of a second phase of this ceasefire deal seem now potentially to be eased, given the fact Hamas have signalled that they are ready to communicate. How do you think the feeling is in Palestine and in Gaza at the moment, given the fact that Hamas have said that that is a possibility?
See, thank you for having me. There is a positive atmosphere in Gaza about moving toward second phases of the negotiation. A positive feeling on the ground that they are going through to the end of the war. Since Hamas, they are showing their serious to end the war by their statement, releasing the last statement about releasing the whole hostages in one time. And people are going through to next step to restructure in Gaza, to rebuild their demolished home and their destroyed home. And Hamas, it's showing flexibility to the next step of the negotiation.
Yes, Ali, and looking at a potential prisoner release, there have been reports that potentially we might see a release of all female hostages and all hostages under the age of 19 being freed who are currently being held within Israel. This signals a significant shift in that instance. Do you think that that is something that will be supported by Israel? And what will that mean again for the people living in Palestine?
By the way, this all that women and the children who's under the age of 19, they got arrested during the war. I mean, during the October 2023. So this is, I mean, they are not the, I mean, they are not in the Israeli prison for a long time. And this is giving optimistic for the Palestinian for moving through the peace process between Israel and Palestine to release all women who got arrested during the war, who's really suffering from the Israeli prison. And also there is unoptimistic, or there is a pessimistic statement like what he said, Labid, that Israeli opposition leader, about that Hamas will not accept to demilitarize Hamas and let them leave from the power in Gaza. Hamas will not accept it. So we are still waiting and to see what will happen in the next phase of the agreement or negotiation. And in my opinion, there is a pressure between the mediator, Egypt and Qatar, and now there is Saudi Arabia. Tomorrow they are going to host a meeting that including Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, and Emirates, to discuss the Egyptian plan to govern Gaza and to control Gaza, for also to rebuild Gaza without exist of Hamas and without displaced the people from.
Yes.
The atmosphere hopeful and everyone waiting what will happen, but we are hope that Benjamin Netanyahu and his right wing, they will be serious about this negotiation and about this discussion, and I guess it will be hosted in Qatar or Cairo, either Qatar or Cairo. We are hoping that they will reach to the end of the war and moving forward to the peace process between Israel and Palestine.
Yes, Professor Imbar, to end this discussion, I want to look towards now the next stage of discussions. Is there a world in which Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government look at a deal and a plan that doesn't involve Donald Trump's suggestion of displacing potentially millions of Palestinians living in Gaza? Do you think there could be an agreement reached where it doesn't end up leading to that?
This is, of course, a possibility. Hello?
Yes, Professor Imbar, we can hear you.
This is the possibility, but it depends, of course, on the American position. Israel is a friend, an ally of the United States, and I believe that this flexibility possible flexibility on part of the Americans will allow Israel to change its position. So far, Israel is, of course, supporting the plan of President Trump, and we'll see what happens.
Professor Imbar and Ali, thank you very much for joining us.